everyone. Welcome to another What I Would Have Done Thursday. And today I thought it would be interesting to briefly dive into another film that is probably considered one of the worst out there. It's not one of those films where you could argue, yeah, maybe there is something there that could really work to its advantage. I mean, there's just a lot of problems with this particular film and a lot of things that I think definitely needed to be changed. And so I'm going to address that in this video. And as you can probably tell by the title and thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the film Baby Geniuses. Yeah, Baby Geniuses. Unfortunately, the movie does not have any form of genius within the title that it gives itself. The first right out of the gate problem with this film is its tone. I mean, and just the way it's directed too, which also reflects onto I think the overall presentation of the film as well. It's very bizarre and strange. It's uncomfortable at times and awkward. You know, they have all these really strange close-up shots. They have really bad computer graphics, and then they also have very bad animatronics, especially that really big baby animatronic. That thing just scares you. Like if you were to see that thing in real life, I mean, I don't care. I would just run away from it. I would be like, nope, not going to go near that thing. It just is so strange, like how they put in all of this stuff in that really is unnecessary almost. I mean, and tries to make it very kind of avant-garde and strange. And that I think completely needed to be scrapped. I think they could have done something serious, especially considering the fact that they are kind of trying to bring up the whole concept of babies becoming geniuses. uh, so again, this also makes the comedy very awkward, and you know there's a lot of repetitiveness to it as well. So that also too should have, I think, really been altered. I think they could have just stripped it and made it just a straightforward, serious piece. I don't think they needed to try to be funny. I don't think they needed to really try to be avant-garde, weird. They just kind of needed to be sort of, you know, a little strange, but then maybe not as overboard that they go to, at least within this film. So that I think would have been just an overall better approach, and would have given the film a little bit more weight, and I think it would have allowed the audience to maybe take it a little bit more seriously. So yeah, had they just ditched the animatronics, had they just gone for completely different tone by just being more straightforward and just serious and not really trying to be comedic, then I think it would have been a whole lot easier to present the story. And this story is, yeah, pretty stupid. I mean, the whole idea of, you know, trying to give the impression that somehow babies are geniuses somehow, just doesn't really shine through within this film because there's just a lot of oddities and not a whole lot of uh, creativity into the understanding or its whole premise. But I think what they could have done is had they just made it take place maybe sometime in the near future or something. Um, and you have these scientists who are trying to experiment on babies to see if they can make them smarter. Now, the whole idea behind babies becoming smarter is sort of the idea of, you know, parents want their kids to grow up smart. So, because if you're smart, you're more likely to survive at least, and you're more likely to be prosperous. At least that's what I think. At least a lot of people assume a lot of the time. So these scientists try to artificially make babies a little bit smarter so that their brains develop a lot faster, and then therefore they have higher IQ rates. Um, that I think would have been a whole lot better and a lot more realistic approach to this uh, kind of angle of trying to make babies smarter. Like there's no really reason given as to why they're making babies smarter or why there's a need for this. It doesn't really suffice all too much. So I think that's what they could have done is just had some kind of experimentation onto the babies where they're trying to increase their levels of intelligence so that they will become great scientists or mathematicians, or they're capable of processing information a lot faster and therefore will develop a lot faster and therefore have higher IQs when they're adults. Um, and also the babies shouldn't have talked. I thought that was stupid. Like they just needed to make the babies seem like they had a little bit more comprehension and like they could understand things. Maybe they couldn't fully communicate yet, but they would have a higher level of intelligence than maybe the average baby of that age or something of that nature. Um, and what I think could have been sort of a conflict with this story is that uh, once they see the experiments kind of start working and they kind of go through all of the different tests and whatnot, um, unfortunately there are some side effects that end up happening. Maybe the babies, suddenly start having maybe some kind of, you know, disease, or they get fairly ill or something of that nature, or their brain just starts to, maybe starts to hurt because, if they're getting all this sort of intelligence morphed into them at an unnatural stage, then maybe it could have some effects there. So, I mean, I think you could have done multiple side effects. That would have been, I think, rather interesting because it would have given us, I think, a variety. Because I think a lot of the times people have different side effects to different things that are given to them, at least within the context of medicine. So I think, or at least more side effects are more present in some people than in other people. So I think it would have made sense to have some kind of variation of problems occurring. Um, but then they still have very high IQ or something like that. They just end up sort of kind of suffering a little. Um, and you could have had the company kind of trying to cover up the the real damage that it's sort of doing to the kids or to the babies, and ultimately the babies, since they have a higher level of intelligence, kind of try to figure out ways into which that they can kind of sort of cure themselves, and then maybe the ultimate cure ends up being that they sort of kind of try to go back into their original state. Um, so they don't keep taking they stop they sort of start resisting taking or doing experiments or trying to take maybe certain artificial, like medicine or things like that are trying to make the baby smarter. Um, and, they just kind of try to go back to their own selves as what they're really designed to be, as opposed to, just kind of being their sort of artificial selves that's kind of killing them a little bit. Uh, and then that sort of ends up kind of being the end, and then the company is sort of found out. Um, there's class action lawsuits or what all around. And eventually, there is the sort of the lesson learned that, babies are sort of meant to kind of develop at their own stages. You can't just control them like animals, it's not like that. You have to let them sort of be themselves and let them explore the world in their own way. and you can't just gander them up and force them to somehow become smarter. Because intelligence kind of is supposed to really come naturally, and I think too at the end of the day, I think we should be judged more by the content of our character rather than how smart or how dumb we are. I think that's more important, at least to me. I don't think really IQ. I mean, I understand that, we should try to encourage people to be smart or encourage people to learn at least and be open minded and thinking kind of outside the box or trying to, kind of find different ways of approaching things. I think that's very important. But at the end of the day, I don't think um, someone with a or someone who has a genius brain is automatically a better person or has or achieves more in life than someone who's just maybe average or something like that. I think that's also another message that could be really gandered up too, because I think you know within the context of the parents, feeling like their kids have to be smart, have to be really, really smart in order to succeed in life. Whereas, you know, at the end of the day, it should be more about your kid's character and trying to let them develop their own sense of intelligence on their own. That's more important than trying to make them a certain IQ level or something, or trying to bolster up their brain when their brain is not meant to be on that level or something like that. I think that would have suited this whole premise a whole lot better. And you could have seen it through the context of the adults and the babies, and as well as the scientists too, because maybe there's some of the scientists that really just want to do good and feel like that increasing kids' intelligence, is going to make them, better people, and or it's going to make it so that they're more productive or better, just better at doing things. So I can see if I think you could allow it so that the film could have been seen through kind of multiple perspectives. So it could be have been very scientific in that sense, but also um, trying to address the kind of moral issue of artificially trying to um, make your brain more smarter than it's really capable of being. Um, and yeah, I think that's really the ultimate things that needed to really be changed within this film. I mean, it's just very poorly presented. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of context as to what exactly is happening at certain points and really what the direction is. It's almost like at least within the film, it tries to sort of paint the baby co company or whatever as like these very evil, sadistic kind of people, just want to use babies and um, then and uh, kind of making it seem like that the babies are smarter than the adults. Um, Whereas I think with the premise I suggested, it would have allowed a lot more variety there and would have presented, I think, a lot more um, of an interesting insight into that kind of dilemma of trying to somehow make kids smarter and how that ends up causing the various effects and whatnot. But that's really, I think, all I can say. I mean, it really it was a dead film just based upon the idea that we're going to try to make baby smarter, but then we're not going to give really any insight or explanation as to why we're really doing it or what's really the ultimate outcome of making baby smarter. I mean, had they provided the explanations that I would have done with my premise, and had they at least tried to, give some likability or at least something interesting within this film, and not really paint it as so black and white, having the evil company and then you know, having the babies who do really bad jokes and whatnot, you know, be somehow the geniuses. Again, I think we would have gotten something a little bit stronger. But that's just my honest opinion. I mean, I'm more than happy to hear what anybody else has to say and if they have any ideas or thoughts as to what they would have done with this particular film. But I think that's really all I can say, though. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Expect Fridays and Saturdays to be delayed, but I'll be back on Sunday to put all of this week's videos together. But until then, everybody, bye-bye.